This is Physical Science 1, Chapter 2, Part 1 on Science, Technology, and Society. In this portion of the video lecture, we will be discussing technology and different forces that shape technology. Without science, of course, we would have no technology. Breakthroughs in science have changed the course of human history. The more we learn, the more we understand, the more we can apply to our lives. We will take a look at a couple of different branches for scientific discoveries that led to different developments in technology. In the field of life science, biology, several hundred years ago, people thought that if you became ill, it was because you had bad humors in your body. Bloodletting was a common practice to make people feel better. They believed that there was bad blood inside the body, and releasing that bad blood would make a person feel better. As we learn more about disease and sickness, we finally have the invention of the microscope to be able to see microscopic organisms like bacteria. Once we studied bacteria, it was then realized that bacteria are the little buggers that actually spread disease. And so we developed different technologies for disease prevention. Remember, technologies don't always have to be something that's plugged in. Technologies can be processes like washing your hands, also different hand sanitizers and the like. We use what we know about bacteria and disease spread, and then we can develop that technology for disease prevention. In the field of earth science, we have studying weather patterns. Thousands of years ago, it was believed that the god or goddess was either happy or upset, and that's why weather patterns were the way they were. Once we started to realize that certain weather phenomena happened at particular times of year, we could start to use that knowledge and apply that to design instruments to help us predict future weather patterns, so we can develop the science and technology of weather forecasting. So what is technology? Technology is how we apply science to make our lives better. So it's the application of scientific knowledge of materials and processes to benefit people. Now, like I said before, technology doesn't always have to be plugged in. Something that would be considered very low technology would be something like a pencil. There was a whole process into designing a pencil. Before pencils, ink pens had to be used. Before we had ink pens, there were different rather sharp instruments like feather quills and the like that were dipped in inkwells to use. So technology doesn't always have to be plugged in. A pencil could be considered technology. Low tech, but it's technology. Something high tech, of course, would be like an iPad. But technology changes through time. It depends on our needs. It depends on our level of scientific knowledge. Technology can be human-made objects, of course, like the iPad. Can also be methods or techniques used for making objects and the skills to operate those methods or techniques. Technology can also be a system of people and objects to complete a task. So the umbrella of technology really opens up to a lot of different things that aren't just necessarily something that can be plugged into a wall. When we take a look at technology needs in a global perspective, developing countries. These are countries that are sometimes called third world countries, places in Africa and certain rural places in India and Asia. These people will use technology solutions to focus on supplying basic needs, clean water, for example. Many people in developing countries get their water source from a lake or a river or a stream. Their animals also bathe and excrete their waste in those same streams. So it's important for people in developing countries again, to have just basic needs met. So technologies have been developed, sustainable technologies have been developed for folks in these regions for just basic needs for families. Industrial countries, places like the United States and Canada and Europe, in most cases here, basic needs for survival are met. So that extra money can be spent on higher technology. Technology in industrial countries are designed to improve the quality of life of individuals. Now, the tap water that comes out of your sink at home has already been through the wastewater treatment plant and has been cleaned. However, we can develop further technologies to get rid of even more things out of the water, such as the brittle water filter with their 3-stage filtering system. So not only can we have clean water as a basic need, but we can also enhance that with technology. And that's the type of technologies that are used in industrial countries. So how does technology come about? There's quite a few forces that shape technology. Social forces are a very important part of technology. A society is a group of people that share similar values and beliefs. The development of technology is affected by society, changing values, politics, and economics. If in industrial countries like ours, the people need or want something, then technologies are based on those wants and needs. Technology, of course, costs money, and that money needs to come from somewhere. The money can come through several different routes. The federal government will provide funds for development of technology and research. And in order to apply and qualify for those federal funds, scientists and engineers have to show their research. They have to say that this technology is something that's necessary. The federal government is rather tight with their extra monies, and so they don't throw their money out for technology on a whim. And so engineers and scientists need to work together to get those federal funds. Private foundations and organizations also raise money through donations and charities to develop technologies. The medical industry has many private foundations that they use to raise money for research for either disease cure or prevention or better testing methods. So these monies are given to these foundations by the people. Private industries themselves also budget a portion of their profits for research and development, especially in the 21st century age of green technologies. Many different types of companies are setting aside more funds to provide sustainable ways to manufacture and store and transport their products. We always have this idea that technology is good and all technologies are good and our lives will benefit from that. The benefit of technologies in some cases may outweigh the risk of developing or using that technology. You know, when Henry Ford started to put the first Model A's on the road, never did he realize that, hundreds of years later that we would have this problem of carbon emissions from the fossil fuels that are needed to run those automobiles. Most of the time, there is a lot of research and development that goes into consequences for technology. So usually those are known immediately, but in some cases they may not be known until the future. An example of this was a chemical that was developed for a pesticide, and it was called DDT. And this chemical was, the miracle insecticide, pesticide for farmers. They sprayed it on their crops, and they had zero crop damage by insects. However, what was not known was that that molecule, those DDT molecules, stayed in the food chain through a process that we call biomagnification. And so the insects that would eat or attempt to eat the crops would die due to the DDT. However, those crops had that DDT in it, and the cows eat those crops. The cows became infected with DDT, and then we can transfer that to meat and milk products into people. And eventually it was found that newborn babies had DDT, that molecules that were present in their bodies. And so this was causing different types of birth defects. And it was finally sourced back to this chemical, which is now banned and illegal. So again, most of the time there are, consequences can outweigh the risk. But in some cases, we may not know what this technology might bring us into the future. Even though scientists are people too, they need to be moral and ethical as well. Ethics help scientists establish standards for research. A lot of ethics in science, just because we can do something, does that mean that we really should? Stem cell research, for example, is one of those controversial topics in science. Just because we could make tissues or organs. So we can develop different things from stem cells. And does that mean, if we can develop different organs from stem cells, does that mean we could technically clone a human? Does that mean that we should? So different types of issues in science. Science isn't always pretty. It isn't always nice. Sometimes there are some rather controversial and taboo subjects. But all scientists and engineers need to have an ethical establishment of standards for research in order to make the process as unbiased as possible. This has been Physical Science 1, Chapter 2, Part 1 on Science, Technology, and Society.